Why empaths attract people who secretly resent their light. Carl Jung. Carl Jung, one of the most influential psychologists, spent a great deal of time trying to understand why people with what we now call empathic abilities often face such a cruel and painful paradox. These individuals possess an incredible gift, the ability to deeply feel and sense the emotions of others, but strangely, this gift often brings them their greatest suffering. Jung discovered something profound. Empathic people tend to attract others who unconsciously project their own hidden fears, shame, and emotional wounds onto them. Imagine an empath as a bright, shining light. People who have grown used to the darkness of their own emotional numbness can't help but be drawn to that light. Yet, at the same time, that very light makes them uncomfortable, even angry. It reminds them of the feelings they have buried or denied in themselves. Jung called this process shadow projection, where people unconsciously transfer their rejected parts, emotions, or traits they don't want to face, onto someone else. For the empath, this means that the very qualities that make them beautiful and authentic become the target of others' resentment and hostility. What Jung saw in his clinical work was a heartbreaking pattern. Empaths, with their ability to instantly sense pain in others and offer genuine compassion, become safe havens for those seeking understanding and healing. People open up to them, share secrets they've never told anyone, and feel comforted by their presence. But over time, something shifts. Those same people, once drawn in by the empath's authenticity, begin to criticize them. They tell the empath they are too sensitive, too intense, or too much. Gradually, these relationships break down, often leaving the empath confused and hurt. This isn't just a normal cycle of misunderstandings or personality clashes. Jung realized that something deeper was happening. The empath represents a connection to genuine emotion, something that most people have lost or shut down as a survival mechanism. When someone who has buried their feelings meets an empath who is openly connected to theirs, it triggers an unconscious shame and fear. The empath's emotional truth reflects back the hidden pain and vulnerability in others, and that reflection is often too much for them to bear. It's as if the empath is holding up a mirror to people's deepest wounds, and many find that mirror unbearable. This dynamic Jung called the mirror trap. The empath's natural, open-hearted presence forces others to confront feelings they've long avoided, causing intense discomfort. In turn, those people often unconsciously blame the empath for making them feel emotions they don't want to face. But really, those feelings existed long before the empath arrived. Jung also made a chilling observation. People often seek out empaths because their unconscious mind recognizes the emotional vitality they lack. They want to experience the depth and aliveness that the empath embodies. But at the same time, they resent the empath for showing what they themselves have lost. This contradiction, the simultaneous attraction and rejection, creates a psychological paradox that can deeply harm sensitive individuals. Jung called the process of attacking empaths for their gifts shadow projection. When someone lashes out at an empath, they aren't truly angry at the empath. Instead, they are resenting parts of themselves they have pushed away. The empath's emotional openness and authenticity expose the falsehood and numbness that others have created as protection. In many ways, empaths hold qualities that these people once had but learned to suppress or kill inside themselves. The anger directed at the empath is really a punishment for what has been lost. These attacks are often subtle, disguised as concern or advice. You need to toughen up. The world will eat you alive, or you're too trusting. But beneath these words lies deep unconscious pain, self-hatred projected outward to try and dim the empath's light. Jung noticed that these attacks come in different forms. Some people become emotional critics, harshly judging empaths for their feelings because they have completely shut down their own emotions and feel ashamed when they see someone who expresses them freely. Others are authenticity attackers, people who live behind masks and feel threatened by those who show who they really are. Then there are the vulnerability violators, people who have been hurt so badly that they close their hearts and punish anyone who dares to be open and trusting. And finally, the most dangerous are the light dimmers, individuals who work to undermine the empath's confidence, convincing them that their empathy is a problem to be fixed rather than a gift to be treasured. For the empath, understanding which type of attack they face is crucial because each requires different ways to protect their true self. Without this awareness, many empaths start to doubt their own feelings. They begin to hide their emotional nature to avoid conflict and rejection, a process Jung called the dimming epidemic. Slowly, these sensitive souls risk losing the very quality that makes them valuable, their emotional authenticity, and instead become emotionally numb themselves, just like those they once helped. This pattern creates not only personal pain but also a threat to humanity's emotional growth. Empaths are essential for our collective emotional evolution. They keep alive the possibility of true feeling and connection in a world where many have learned to shut down. But when empaths are worn down by constant misunderstanding and rejection, they risk burning out or betraying their own nature. Jung's work invites us to see this dynamic clearly and with compassion. If you've ever been told you are too much or too emotional, it might not be about you at all. It's a sign that others are struggling with their own emotional wounds. Your empathy is not too much. Sometimes, the world is just too numb. Recognizing this can be a powerful step toward protecting your authentic self and continuing to shine your light, even in the face of shadow. There's a deeply painful struggle that many empaths face. People who are naturally sensitive and able to feel the emotions of others very deeply. What makes them special also becomes their greatest challenge. Over time, many empaths begin to believe that their sensitivity is a flaw rather than a gift. Instead of seeing themselves as beautifully attuned to feelings, they start thinking they are too much or too sensitive. But the real truth is that it's often others around them who have shut down their emotions and become numb. The empath's vibrant emotional nature simply highlights that numbness, and that makes others uncomfortable. The most tragic part of this struggle is when empaths, after being hurt and rejected repeatedly, turn that harshness inward. They start attacking their own emotional nature, becoming their own worst enemy. What was once their greatest strength, their deep feeling and connection, becomes something they try to hide or suppress. This self-betrayal is dangerous not only for the empath, but for the whole of humanity. Because empaths are often the pioneers of emotional growth, showing others how to express feelings in healthy ways. When they hide their light, the world loses crucial guides who can help us reconnect with what it means to truly feel. The famous psychologist Carl Jung saw this clearly. He believed that protecting empaths was essential for human progress. He noticed a painful pattern where empaths, who bring emotional truth and openness, are often attacked by others who fear that truth. People unconsciously resent the empath because the empath's emotional clarity exposes their own buried pain and emotional numbness. This creates a cruel paradox. The very qualities that make empaths so valuable are the same ones that make them targets of rejection. To help empaths survive and thrive, Jung developed what could be called a guide, a way to preserve their authentic selves while guarding against unconscious negativity. First, empaths must recognize something vital. The criticism they face isn't truly about them. When others lash out, it's because those people are projecting their own hidden wounds onto the empath. Hatred aimed at an empath's sensitivity is often self-hatred from the other person, reflected like a broken mirror. When empaths learn to see attacks as signals of someone else's inner struggle rather than as personal failures, they protect their own sense of self. Next comes the need for strong emotional boundaries. Empaths must learn to keep their hearts open while protecting themselves from harmful projections. This means developing the ability to tell the difference between feedback that helps them grow and attacks disguised as concern or advice meant to weaken them. Jung called this skill psychological discernment, knowing when to listen and when to shield. Then, empaths must carefully choose who they spend time with. Not everyone can handle genuine emotional depth, and it's harmful to try to change that by dimming one's own light. Instead, empaths thrive when they connect with people who value and celebrate their true feelings. This kind of vibrational matching draws in those who resonate with authenticity and naturally repels those who fear it. Jung's studies didn't stop at theory. He looked at real people who embodied these struggles and triumphs. Take Saint Francis of Assisi, for example. Despite criticism from religious authorities who preferred a cold, intellectual approach to spirituality, Francis kept his deep empathy and compassion alive. His emotional openness was threatening to those who had made faith more about rules than feeling, but he never dimmed his light. He showed what it means to live with authentic integration, staying true to one's feelings even in the face of harsh judgment. On the other hand, Vincent van Gogh offers a heartbreaking example of what happens when an empath lacks protection. Van Gogh's intense emotional sensitivity fueled his brilliant art, but it also made him vulnerable to criticism and rejection. He internalized the negativity, began to doubt himself, and suffered deeply. Jung saw Van Gogh as an empath who had extraordinary gifts but no safe way to protect them. His tragedy wasn't his sensitivity, but believing that because others couldn't handle it, something was wrong with him. Jung himself faced the same dilemma. His deep psychological insight made others uncomfortable, threatening those who preferred to stay in denial or superficiality. He wrestled with whether to tone down his perceptions for acceptance or hold on to them and risk isolation. Ultimately, he understood that protecting his empathic gifts wasn't just about himself. It was about advancing psychological understanding for everyone. What Jung called a vibrational sanctuary is crucial for empaths, a community where their emotional honesty is embraced, not attacked. He found 3 kinds of people who can offer this sanctuary. First, other empaths who truly understand each other's depth and sensitivity, creating mutual safety. Second, emotionally mature non-empaths who have worked on their own emotional growth and respect empathy as a gift. And third, conscious allies who actively choose to support and protect authentic emotional expression in others. Jung also gave practical advice for empaths to recognize safe relationships. Such people show genuine curiosity about feelings without judgment, appreciate sensitivity instead of dismissing it. Protect emotional energy rather than drain it, encourage authentic expression instead of demanding it be hidden, and see empathy as a strength rather than a weakness. He recommended that empaths reveal their true selves gradually, starting with small acts of emotional openness, and carefully watch how people respond. Those who appreciate and protect their sensitivity are safe to grow closer to. Those who reject or attack should be kept at a distance. The goal is not to hide one's light, but to share it with those who truly value it. Jung described 4 stages of growth for empaths as they integrate their gifts into a healthy life. First, they learn to recognize resentment directed at them as projection from others rather than a reason to hide their light. This projection immunity protects their sense of worth. Second, they develop strong but flexible boundaries, staying open while blocking psychological attacks. Third, they create supportive communities where authenticity is valued, letting go of the need to be accepted by everyone. And finally, they serve others from a place of abundance, giving their gifts without sacrificing their own well-being, which contributes to healing on a larger cultural scale. When empaths successfully travel this path, Jung believed they become beacons of emotional truth and healing for the world. They show that sensitivity and strength can live together and help humanity move toward deeper, more genuine connections. Carl Jung once saw empaths as vital lights in a world often clouded by emotional darkness. These individuals carry a rare gift, the ability to feel deeply, not only their own emotions, but the emotions buried within others. In a culture that tends to numb feelings, empaths become models of healthy emotional expression, quietly showing others what it means to be truly alive inside. Jung believed that when empaths protect their gift and keep their light burning, they become living reminders that emotional numbness is not the only option. They hold the flame that others can use to rediscover their own emotional vitality. But this path is not easy. Jung observed many dangers that threaten to derail empaths as they try to live authentically in a world that often misunderstands or resists their sensitivity. One common trap is what Jung called the revenge trap. Imagine someone who's been hurt for showing their feelings, then reacting by attacking others for being emotionally closed off, the very behavior that once wounded them. Jung warned that when empaths respond to unconscious attacks by consciously attacking back, they lose sight of their true purpose. Understanding that others project their pain doesn't mean it's okay to project pain onto others. Falling into this cycle only turns the empath into the very thing they once suffered from, a person who judges and harms others for their emotional differences. Another danger Jung noticed was what he called enlightened arrogance. Sometimes, empaths who understand the unconscious mind might start feeling superior to those who don't recognize or appreciate their emotional depth. It's easy to think, I'm more evolved, more sensitive, more real, but Jung reminded them this is a misunderstanding. The gift of empathy isn't meant to build walls or hierarchies. It's meant to heal, to connect, to bring compassion into the world. Then there's the risk of isolation. Some empaths, after experiencing too much rejection, may decide it's safer to withdraw completely. They tell themselves that if others can't see their worth, there's no point in trying to connect. But Jung pointed out that true growth requires staying open, remaining compassionate, and available to those who are ready to receive. Isolation might protect the empath for a while, but it ultimately cuts them off from the healing relationships they need, and that others need from them. Perhaps the most heartbreaking challenge is the temptation to dim the light, to hide or suppress authentic feelings to avoid conflict or rejection. Even when empaths intellectually understand why people resist their emotional nature, the pain of being attacked remains real. Jung knew that surviving this requires more than knowledge. It calls for genuine inner strength. It's about courage, the courage to stay true to yourself, even when others push back. To help empaths maintain their light while protecting themselves, Jung developed practical ways of living with empathy in the world. He encouraged regular reflection on which relationships nourish your spirit and which drain it. He advised making conscious choices about when to open up and when to set firm boundaries. He stressed the importance of connecting with others who understand and share your emotional experiences and focusing your energy on those who truly value your gifts, rather than trying to convince those who resist. Jung beautifully put it this way: the authentic empath does not try to force their light on everyone, but keeps it shining for those who need its warmth. He saw empaths not only as individuals, but as crucial figures in humanity's emotional evolution. In a world often disconnected from genuine feeling, these individuals prove that emotional life is still possible. They are pioneers, lighting the way back to the heart for all of us. Throughout history, Jung noticed empathic people acting as bridges between emotional eras, preserving wisdom when society numbs itself and guiding healing when the time comes. What starts as one person's personal emotional authenticity eventually becomes a collective shift, a cultural awakening. They keep the flame alive when emotions are suppressed by the masses, standing as quiet rebels against emotional disconnection. In today's world, Jung believed empaths often feel not just personal pain but the echoes of collective emotional wounds. They sense feelings that many people bury deep, feelings that desperately need expression for society to heal. This is why genuine emotional intelligence and connection are more important than ever, not just in personal relationships but in leadership and decision-making that affect us all. Jung's key insight was that empaths feel what many don't allow themselves to feel. Their emotional responses often mirror the unconscious needs of entire communities, even entire cultures. Their service is not in hiding their feelings to make others comfortable, but in boldly remaining authentic, showing the world what emotional aliveness looks like. In a way, their very existence challenges the numbness around them and offers a path forward. At the highest level, Jung said empaths learn to carry their gifts with both strength and kindness. They shine brightly, but also hold space for those who aren't ready to see such light yet. Jung called this luminous compassion, the ability to be fully yourself while understanding. The ability to be fully yourself while understanding. Throughout history, Jung noticed empathic people acting as bridges between emotional eras, preserving wisdom when society numbs itself and guiding healing when the time comes. What starts as one person's personal emotional authenticity eventually becomes a collective shift, a cultural awakening. They keep the flame alive when emotions are suppressed by the masses, standing as quiet rebels against emotional disconnection. In today's world, Jung believed empaths often feel not just personal pain but the echoes of collective emotional wounds. They sense feelings that many people bury deep, feelings that desperately need expression for society to heal. This is why genuine emotional intelligence and connection are more important than ever, not just in personal relationships but in leadership and decision-making that affect us all. Jung's key insight was that empaths feel what many don't allow themselves to feel. Their emotional responses often mirror the unconscious needs of entire communities, even entire cultures. Their service is not in hiding their feelings to make others comfortable, but in boldly remaining authentic, showing the world what emotional aliveness looks like. In a way, their very existence challenges the numbness around them and offers a path forward. At the highest level, Jung said empaths learn to carry their gifts with both strength and kindness. They shine brightly, but also hold space for those who aren't ready to see such light yet. Jung called this luminous compassion, the ability to be fully yourself while understanding the pain behind others' resistance. He also noticed a troubling pattern. Empaths often attract people who initially seem drawn to their light but eventually turn hostile, as if the brightness becomes too much. But with Jung's guidance, many empaths transformed these painful cycles. They learn to see others' resentment not as proof they are flawed, but as clues about those people's own hidden wounds. They found their true communities, people who celebrate their emotional gifts rather than reject them, and stopped dimming their light just to fit in. Jung's most profound discovery was this: when people resent your emotional truth, it usually means they are mourning their own lost feelings. Their hostility reveals the deep grief they carry over emotions they've shut away. You are not too much for this world. The world has simply grown disconnected from its own emotional power. You are not broken because others can't handle your sensitivity. They are wounded because they have learned to live without their own feeling. The real question, Jung said, isn't whether others will reject your authentic self. It's whether you will protect your emotional nature while holding compassion for those who have lost theirs. His teachings offer a way out of unconscious suffering toward conscious service, from hiding your gifts to sharing them wisely, from shrinking your light to letting it shine brightly for those who need it most. You were born to be emotionally alive, not to dim yourself for people who prefer numbness. Your authenticity is a beacon for those ready to reclaim their own buried feelings. The world desperately needs your light, burning strong and clear, not hidden beneath layers of others' fears. Your empathy is your strength, not your weakness. Others' inability to accept genuine emotion is their unhealed wound projected onto you. By embracing Jung's principles, you become exactly who you were meant to be, a bridge between humanity's emotional past and future, a keeper of true feeling in a world often forgetting how to feel, a healer who remains whole while helping others remember their wholeness. Jung's greatest lesson was that resentment toward empaths isn't just personal rejection, it's humanity's unconscious grief over lost emotional truth. Your light doesn't need to dim. The world's capacity to embrace that light simply needs to grow. You are never too much for the right people. They will celebrate your gifts. Those who resist reveal themselves by their own inner pain. If you recognize this pattern in yourself, the empath who draws unconscious resentment, you belong to a rare and vital group, essential for humanity's emotional healing and growth. Share your story of how your light has been met with resistance, and connect with others walking the same path. If you want to explore deeper into Jung's discoveries on empathic psychology and emotional authenticity, consider watching my video, The Day the Empath Snaps, where I reveal how empaths transform from emotional absorbers into sovereign beings who cannot be manipulated or broken.
Ion.
Music.